President Trump's takeover of local D.C. police, it is set to expire later tonight. The administration used the Home Rule Act as part of what they called a crime emergency in the nation's capital. That act is meant to be used for emergencies and can only be used for 30 days. The House and Senate would then need to authorize an extension. CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns joins me now from Capitol Hill. Caitlin, thank you for joining us today. Is there any support among lawmakers to actually issue an extension here?
Well, Mugo, it's very interesting because most Republican lawmakers you talk to up here are very supportive of the president sending the National Guard into D.C., but there are no plans to have a vote to extend that authority. Remember, the president was able to do that through executive action, but only for 30 days. To extend that would require Congress to weigh in, and they are deciding not to because the D.C. mayor has made it clear that she wants to work with the federal government, with federal authorities, to phase the National Guard out and see what needs to be done in terms of policing. So she has signaled that she wants to work with the federal government, and Republican lawmakers up here say that at least for now, that suffices, that is enough to not require Congress to extend this. They could possibly later, but what they are focusing on now is a series of crime-related bills targeted at D.C. that they hope will make up for that and provide, in their words, a longer-term solution.
And Caitlin, I don't know if this is related to what you just mentioned, but the House Oversight Committee marked up several crime-related measures to, quote, ensure a safe and prosperous District of Columbia. Can you walk us through some of those measures?
Yeah, Mugo, that is exactly related to what I just mentioned because they are viewing these bills as a way to provide a longer-term solution, in their view, to crime in Washington, D.C., so as to not require federal authorities constantly present here. That is their argument. This is, of course, getting a lot of pushback from Democrats, but House Republicans control this committee. So what they're doing today, they're taking up about 14 bills, Mugo, that are aimed at curbing D.C.'s authority when it comes to crime, keeping the city safe, and the beautification of the city. You may remember that the president has issued an executive order to, quote, beautify D.C., and so a lot of this is codifying that into law. A lot of this also tries to limit the power that D.C. has. One of the provisions in this series of bills is to eliminate the position of a D.C. Attorney General, that is an elected position, and turn that into a presidential appointment. In other words, give the president the power to appoint an attorney general for D.C. There are also some other items in this series of bills that would make it easier for juveniles to be prosecuted as adults if cases warrant. There's another bill that would place a heavy fine on those who are camped out in public spaces. So there are a series of bills that the House is addressing today in this committee, marking it up in the hopes that it reaches to the floor and speaks to this larger issue of crime. Now, something that I'm watching is how Democrats respond to this, and this also underscores the way in which, D.C. is not a state. These rules are very tricky. And so what is the role of the federal government? What power do they have in curbing D.C.'s authority? That is all going to play out in this series of bills and potentially beyond.
Yeah, a lot of important questions there. We'll see how far those bills go. Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time.